was here with Property Guard. I wanted to demo our newest module. We're calling it Compliance. Some of you may be familiar with this concept if you use our main product. Property Guard handles 3 different types of compliance for short-term rentals. Some of our customers don't allow them at all. Some of them allow them, but with restrictions like minimum duration of stay, things like that. And some of them actually do allow them fully, but want to track them. And so in that instance, they have permits and they can track listings and have some more control over their short-term rentals. Well, we've expanded that idea from our main Property Guard application to its own application. And this is aimed directly at our customers who have condos or HOAs. So their residents own their units. And these residents, or a certain subset of them, are allowed to lease their owned units to tenants. And typically, they'll lease them for longer periods of time. So this is an extension of short-term rentals. These are more mid-term rentals. And a lot of our customers are using spreadsheets or even pen and paper to track all the leases and all the permits and the wait lists and all of that. And so we've expanded, and I want to show you what that looks like for this demo property. So you're looking at a pretty basic screen. That's kind of the hallmark of Property Guards. We keep things simple. And right now, you're seeing a demo property. Everything I'm going to show you is completely made up, of course, and it's empty now because we haven't done anything. Let me give you a few data points on what this property has going for it so that when we actually walk through and build some things, it makes sense. And everything I'm about to tell you is completely customizable. So you may say, oh, my property does it different. That's great. We can totally handle your property doing it different. So for demo property, we have a really small property. So we're actually only going to allow 2 active lease permits, right? So 2 active permits. So your property may allow 20%, they may allow 250, whatever it is. Ours for now is 2. There's a $50 fee for our permit. Our permit's good for 12 months, and you got to pay the fee every 12 months. That's how this one works. We allow a hardship permit here, so that permit doesn't count against any of our lists. And here, if you have a hardship permit, you still pay the fee. Again, all customizable. All right, so let's make some permits and talk through how things work. So I'm going to go, and you can also see here, I can manage more than one property. So those of us out there who have 10 or 20 properties, you can manage them all. But for my demo property, I'm going to go to permits, and you can see I have no permits. You can also see that I am not at capacity and I have 2 available. That's again because I set the property up to have 2. So let's make a permit. So this is my actual resident. So we're going to just call him Adam Resident, so we know who it is. I'm going to give him an address if you're more of an HOA or if you're condo unit. So I'm just going to say he's unit 100. I definitely need an email for Adam because one of the nice things about this Property Guard system is it actually automates a lot of the communication that you may be doing manually if you remember to do it. So we'll just say Adam Resident at property. Okay. We do not make use of the phone now, so we'll leave that blank. I'm going to go ahead and say that we created this permit today and then we paid our $50. Again, we could make a hardship permit. We're not going to right now. So, all right. So we've created a permit for Adam Resident. One other thing I forgot to mention when I talked through kind of the setup is what we're calling a lease slack days, which is kind of a little bit cumbersome term. But what that means is Adam, as a resident who just now has his permit at this property, has 180 days to put a lease holder into that property. He's got 180 days from any time when any lease ends until he loses the permit. In other words, we don't want permits sitting out there for years if no one's using them. Configurable, we just picked 180 days. So you'll see that in a minute that it doesn't expire for at least 180 days. But let's make it not expire for a lot longer. Let's add a lease. By the way, you can add arbitrary notes to the actual permit itself if you wanted to. I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to add a lease. So again, this is the actual tenant. So we'll just call this Matt Tenant and spell it correctly. We can put in Matt's email and phone if we want to. We are currently not sending communication to Matt, but you definitely could just to store the data. And if ever we add or you tell us functionality where we need to reach out to the tenant, we'll let you know and we can update that for you. So now we have start and end date of the lease. So let's say that Adam is really good and he's got Matt in for today. We don't have an end date yet because this lease might be 6 months long, might be 12 months long. Let's just go ahead and assume it is a 12-month lease for now. Here we go. All right, so we got a 12-month lease. I should also point out another thing I forgot. You need, at this property, to have at least a 6-month lease. That's the minimum lease permit. So if I were to go in here and say, oh, this permit actually ends in, 2 months, and try to squeeze that one by, it's going to tell me it can't be, because this property, you got to be 6 months. So let's do that. Some of our leases start out or become month to month. So if you click the month to month, we're just assuming it's rolling over month to month unless we hear otherwise. Let's create this lease. So here is our lease. We can also add notes to the lease if we want to, and we can upload a copy of the lease itself. So we can add files so you have everything in one spot, not across several spots. You go ahead and upload that lease copy, and it's stored with the lease, which is connected to the permit. Okay, so we go back home now. We can see that we have one active permit. We know that, we just made it. We can see the permit and view the leases. And we don't have any expiring permits. Expiring permits expire in the next 3 months. We'll make one that is about to expire. And we don't have a wait list because if we go back to permits, we still have one permit we can make. So let's create a Adam Old resident. And of course, by old, I mean the permit is old, not the resident. This is unit 200. And let's say that this permit was actually produced a year ago, which is fine. And we'll say you paid it. The fact that the permit is a year old, it's fine. The permit could be 20 years old. What we're really concerned about is that there's a lease that is active within that time frame. So let's create this lease. Matt, let's make it Bob, tenant. And let's go have him, just to be consistent, of course they don't have to line up, but let's go ahead and have him be there. And, oh, let's try my math here. If we added 6 months to that, we are going to be, what, February 20th? Does that look right? Let's see if that works. It does. Again, we could add notes. I'll give you an example. This was the one going to expire. Obviously, and I could attach a file to the note if I needed to. I'm not going to though. So there we go. Added that note, then you, if for someone else comes back, they can see the notes and kind of track the lease and or track the permit. So let's go home. All right. So you can see here that we have an expiring permit. It expires August 18th, right? So right around the time that we're making this. And if you do a little mouse over, it'll pull up and tell you like, see, that actually, that lease expired February 20th. This permit, Adam Old Resident, needs to put a new tenant with a new lease by August 18th. If he does not, this permit goes away. What does that mean? Well, let's make one more permit. So now you see we don't have any capacity, and that's the reason I only made a capacity of 2. I didn't want to spend all day making permits, but I'm going to make a new permit, and you see right here it says, oh, this person is going on the wait list unless they're a hardship. Again, a hardship is just kind of like the trump card of the permits. So if I need to get someone in, if I click hardship, they're just granted their front of the line. They don't matter. But in this example, I will not make the hardship, and I will just make one person. So I'll just say, this is Bree resident in unit 300. There we go. Sorry. There we go. Now notice I can't grant this permit, right? Because it's going to be on the wait list. So I go ahead and create it. If I made it a hardship, I could grant it, just to kind of belabor that point. I don't have a lease to add yet. I theoretically could have one in the future. So now if I go home, you'll see that I have the first person in the wait list is Bree resident. She's waiting, right? And she applied August 20th, which is the date that this demo is happening. Now, I produced this and it expires August 18th. Our system every day, early in the morning, goes through and does all the logic. So since this is obviously made up and I made something expired before, tomorrow morning on the 21st, it will automatically detect that Adam Old Resident expired. It'll knock him off of the active permit because you notice he is both expiring and active. It'll knock him off of the active permit. It will send an email to Adam Old Resident letting him know that his permit has expired. It will also send an email, and it'll copy the property manager on that one. It will also send an email to the property manager letting he or she know that there is capacity in the permits because we'll have one active permit and there's people on the wait list because there's someone on the wait list. And it will let that person go in and grant the permit wait list to be active. Mouthful of words there. But basically, we're automatically going to let people know. And we do warnings at 90, 60, and 30 days for if your permit is expired or is expiring, and if your fee is due. So if either of those happen, we'll let the resident and copy the manager know for all of those. And then when things do expire, rather than automatically granting them, because a lot of times there's idiosyncrasies with the wait list and where things work, we just nudge you, the manager, to go ahead and just press a button to make it happen. And then it continues on and on. After time, you'll have a lot of data. You can export all of it here. We already looked at the permits, so we can see all of our permits here. Those leases that are associated, you can see them here. You can view the permit and the actual lease related to them. And then like any property guard, we have help. So we have built-in help down here, or actually help through our online support. All the documentation, everything we showed you on how to run this. And that's about it. That is the property guard compliance system. It basically allows you to upload lease data, set up permits, set up how your system works now with the confidence of running a system of record that every day does all the checks and balances to make sure everyone is active and has paid, and lets you and them know if people are rolling on or off the list. One last thing I'll mention on this permit wait list: once a month, the top 10 people on the permit wait list, again, something you can change, will get an email letting them know where they are on the list. So even if you don't have an active permit, you may have some residents who just kind of are owners who check in from time to time. They want to know where they are on the list. We'll go ahead and email them and let them know where they are on the list every month, just so they know. A lot of automated communication to go along with this system of record. Really excited about it. Again, it's an extension of what we already have available on the Property Guard main app on the short-term rental side, and we're just happy to kind of branch out into medium-term rentals, especially in the current climate of medium-term rentals being a lot more open and available. Any questions, always reach out to us, help@propertyguard.io, and I appreciate the time. Thank you.